Oh, I know your student athlete is going to be a star. But before that, they get to go to college. Before that, high school. Before that, they're still our young children aspiring to be the greats that they see on all their favorite sports. Well, wouldn't this guide have been helpful when I was enrolling my children? But we have an author here who not only lived the experience, but has a guide for the high school bound student athlete for you. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Timothy Felton.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, you've written other books and you've landed on this idea that, hey, maybe we need to start addressing the opportunities, the challenges, the pathways for our student athletes, even as early as middle school. Talk about what made you focus in even sooner.
Okay. Well, like I said, I participated in athletics starting at the age of 7.
What sport?
Football. I started with football at the Boys and Girls Club. First Herbert Hoover Boys and Girls Club. Then I transitioned to Matthew Dickey Boys and Girls Club, which is currently known as the Boys and Girls Club of America now.
Yeah.
Went through that process, recognized at the age of 7 I had a gift to run fast, so I was racing 10-year-olds and I was beating them at the age of 7. So recognized that gift, used that gift to go through high school, played at Sumner High School, both football, yes ma'am, both football and track in high school. And after that, like I said, ended up getting a football scholarship, going to Southeast Missouri State, played there at Southeast Missouri State. At the end of my collegiate career, had the opportunity to work out for 2 NFL teams, the Indianapolis Colts and the Cleveland Browns, but didn't get drafted. But like I said, I did have my education to fall back on.
So it sounds like athletics actually helped open up doors and opportunities for you beyond the football field.
Yes, like I said, it was instrumental, and just like I said, making sure that my parents made sure that I was involved in something as a youth, and that pretty much propelled me to, like I said, continue on. I did have an older sister that was before me that went on, was a graduate of Sumner High School, went to Stevens College. So I kind of had her as a guide, and other student athletes that had came before me at the high school that I saw go to the collegiate level and play football. One of the things that I recognized, though, even as a youth, playing youth football, that some of my peers did not play high school football. And then in high school, those that played high school football didn't have opportunity to go to the collegiate level to play. And then I did have 5 friends that actually make it to the NFL. But even with that, it comes a point where you have to, retire, or like I said, your time is up in the NFL level. My goal was to make sure that, I continue my education, like I said, go on to get my master's, get my doctorate degree. I even went to trade school and got a barber's license as well. But it was all to show the student athlete and youth and come back and show them that you can be a professional without being a professional athlete, because that percentage is very low. It's like 2% that would make it to the NFL, and that other 98%, which I fell into, was more important for me to really, like I said, focus on education. That's why they call it student athletes, because you should be a student first and then an athlete second.
Sure. Well, you know, that hyphen tends to get removed after a while, and their sights can so easily. I've got 4 sons, and they're NBA, NFL, NBA, NFL. And as you say, those numbers are low, but what you've increased is the number of Black authors. You've increased the number of Black doctorates, master degrees, probably even in the skill set, the trade that you also learn. What made you decide, and how do you even unpack that for a starry-eyed middle schooler?
Basically, like I said, in the guide, I pretty much just kind of use some basic principles where you kind of focus on the academic component first. So in the book, we actually go over like how to calculate your GPA, your grade point average, how to do time management, study skills, take notes. We talk about the ACT, SAT scores, making sure that, as an athlete as well, found out that athlete identity was one of the things that were important as well. So
So tell me, what does that mean, actually, athlete identity?
It's basically how you identify yourself with the sport that you play.
Okay.
For me, I played football, right, versus I was a football player. So I identified pretty much as I played football. That was my identity. Where
Instead
most
of it
people,
making up your whole
identify themselves as a football player. So therefore, if you just a football player, that's all you have. So you don't have a B plan, you don't have anything to fall back on. For me, because I just played football, my goal was never to make it to the NFL, even though I had those workouts. It propelled me to, like I said, just focus on the academic component, which is the most important part, because you also have to be eligible.
Well, there it is.
You have to be eligible to play as well.
Yes. Now, what we've seen over the years is somehow the grade point averages, the test scores, the reading fluency and literacy there, those numbers tend to fall low. And for you putting this front and center, that eligibility, how are they getting through to, and why aren't we hearing more of this message of, hey, in order to be the athlete, you've got to be the scholar as well. Right. How do you address that when you know we've been struggling along the way?
Well, that's why, like I said,
you've seen it.
Pretty much did the guide. And my example is me coming to high school, and at the end of my freshman year, I was almost ineligible. So they had created like a 2.0 rule, which would be all C's. They created the rule. Like I said, I came in, and like I said, it wasn't prepared totally academically. Both of my parents were dropouts. My mom dropped out in the 10th grade. My dad dropped out in the 8th grade. They were from Mississippi and Arkansas, but they had to drop out to actually help their families and obtain jobs. So for me, after that freshman year, I set a goal to get my GPA up from 2.0, and I made it measurable and obtainable, which most of your goals should be, to a 2.5. I wasn't shooting for a 3.5, 4.0. So that first semester of my sophomore year, I was able to get my GPA up to 2.5, and later like a 2.8, where I had my college counselor, Miss Lewis, come to me and actually asked me to get into the college prep program at Sumner, which I turned down. Wish I would have done it later, because I think it would have helped me when I got to the college level. But just propelling, like I said, making sure you set goals. I always had great organization skills, so I made sure I kept a planner, making sure I take good notes. So a lot of those things are in the guide. It
sounds like a lot of those things were in you. Yes. And so we're really grateful that you've put them in the book for our young people and caregivers and parents to access that. Yes. If a student is struggling or trying to find that balance, what is your best advice to get them in a place where they're ready for this book? Setting a goal, I'm determined that in order to get to the promised land and those opportunities, and it may not be on the TV, but even getting to in that orbit, what would you say for someone who may be already struggling with grades and haven't quite got that? You know, there's some maturity that's got to happen as a middle schooler.
It's true.
This is a guide for us to go through with them, or hand it to our
Yes, I mean, it can be used for parents, could go through with their student athlete, coaches, administrators at a school, and like I said, the student athlete themselves. For me, I believe the key component is making sure you figure out academically where you are. So for me, I understood English was my top subject, and I was going to be a journalist, and then I ended up changing it to criminal justice because I wanted to work with juveniles, which I did for over 20 years. But I think finding out what are your niche, what are your top subjects, and once you do that, like I said, the rest of them, like I said, you can kind of manage those other subjects. For me, I read a book called Soaring with Your Strengths, right? And it kind of focus on your strengths. So English was one of my strengths or whatever. Math wasn't, science wasn't, history wasn't. So my focus was on English. Yeah. And so I think you have to just pretty much figure out what are your strengths, and you kind of go with your strengths, and then you can manage those other subjects and your weaknesses. Get tutoring, making sure you talk with your teachers, making sure, like I said, you turning all your assignments in on time. Some people call students that, talk with the teacher all the time, teacher pets or whatever it could be. I didn't care about any of those things. Like I said, I pretty much wanted to be focused and making sure that I get the grades that I would actually earn.
Well, you know what they call the teacher's pet 6 years later? Doctor. Dr. Timothy Felton, so glad you made this guide, and I hope you have some classes or workshops to accompany it, because I think it is so very critical. Your guide for the high school bound athlete. You want to start learning that information early. It's available on Amazon, or you can just email info.yesf.org, info.yesf.org for your chance to order this book. Get them ready early so that those dreams can be revealed and success can happen in any endeavor. And be sure to stick with STL TV. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or just visit us at stltv.net to stay in touch and up to date on all these cool things, including great authors like Dr. Felton. Stick around. We'll see you soon.